Walter's Sports Bar has been recognized by many local publications as one of the best sports bars in Washington, D.C., located across the street from Nationals Park and open year-round.
Here's the pitch to Adams. Swinging a ground ball up the middle, base hit into center field. Lyles coming around third with the go-ahead run. He is going to score. Adele throws it into second, overshoots the cutoff man. Adams will hold it first. He delivers a big-time hit. Nationals lead for the first time 2-1 as Adams the RBI single to center for his 10th RBI of the year. Salazar nods his head. The right-hander sets at the belt, and he deals. Swinging a long drive down the left field line toward the corner. Way back it goes, and it is gone. Newman, a 3-run homer, his first of the year. Are you kidding me? It's 6-2 Angels. Got to come in with a strike. The kick and the pitch. He did not. It's a fastball inside. It's a bases loaded 4-pitch walk. That's a 7-2 Angels lead.
And welcome to Nats Chat along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nationals late night on Saturday night in Game 2 of a 3-game series at the Angels scored just 2 runs as compared to 15 in the team's 15-9 win at the Angels late night on Friday night. But the Nats were in position to win this game on Saturday night. Starting pitcher Michael Soroka allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. The Nats held a 2-1 lead entering the bottom of the 7th inning. But the Nats bullpen struck again, allowed 8 runs over the 7th and 8th innings. The result, an 8-2 loss at the Angels, giving the Nats 16 losses over the team's last 20 games. The Nats now are 34-49, including 6-19 in this month of June. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website you could check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you could purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. So the Nats now for this regular season, dead last in the majors in relief pitching ERA, 5.93. Next to last in the majors in relief pitching whip, 156, and tied for 23rd in the majors in fewest home runs allowed, 40. You know, Mark, the one thing that the Nats' bad bullpen had not been doing, giving up home runs, and we had talked about that, that now very much is a problem. 3 home runs allowed on Saturday night. There's no doubt the Nats should have scored more than 2 runs, but the bullpen, again, imploded.
And it wasn't the guys, Al, that you would ideally want to be out there with a 2-run lead in the 7th inning. But let's set the stage for everyone. Brad Lord, unavailable. He threw 36 pitches the night before. Jose A. Ferrer, unavailable. He pitched Friday night. This would have been his 5th appearance in 8 days. Unavailable. Cole Henry may have been available, but he has not been real sharp here lately. And so who are you left with? By the time you get to that spot, it's Zach Brixey, and then it's Eduardo Salazar, and then Ryan Ludus and Jackson Rutledge. Those are not the guys that in a perfect world Davey Martinez wants to put on the mound in a tight game late. But as Davey said, that's what we had today. It's not a great situation to be in, and you can look back at maybe some of his usage decisions during the course of this road trip and say maybe he didn't have to put himself in that spot. But when the time came, that's who he had. And at some point, you have to be able to rely on more than 3 relievers to get you through games. This has been an ongoing issue, as we've seen this year, and it turned really ugly. And I can't say I'm that shocked by it. Yes, they haven't been giving up home runs, sure. But I can't say I'm shocked that we saw 1 inning get out of control from this bullpen and a close game turned into a rout. We've seen this story way too many times over the last 83 games.
And I think with the bullpen, it has been so bad that it's hard to get sucked into the usage stuff with Davey Martinez because I just don't think these guys are that good. So, you know, you can Monday morning quarterback some of the usage, but at some point, like you just sort of alluded to, you need more than 1 or 2 guys to be good, to be effective. And at no point this season have they had that. Like, you think about how it is with relievers. Like, they can get hot. They can, for sustained periods of time, be effective, even if they aren't particularly good. Who really has been hot at any point this season in terms of Nationals relievers? Like, Cole Henry was going well for a while, okay. Kyle Finnegan at times has been good, so maybe you want to single out him, although he's had his issues. But there's been so little to work with for Davey with this bullpen. I'm not saying he's been perfect with the usage, but at some point, guys have got to get outs. And these guys just have not gotten outs with any kind of consistency this season. And it actually is pretty remarkable. Who has been good for more than a few week stretch this season? I don't know that the answer is anyone, honestly.
No, there hasn't. I mean, I think currently Brad Lord's probably the hottest of them, but that's over the course of a few weeks at most. And as we said, he's been used a lot. Jose A. Ferrer, as we've discussed, you never know which version of him you're going to get on a given night. And the rest of them really don't fall into that same category at all. And there's inexperience, there's ineffectiveness. I mean, you name it. I think the troubling part of it is, it's one thing to not be able to hold a 2-1 lead in the seventh inning against, Mike Trout and some other good hitters in the Angels lineup. That's one thing. It's the implosion. It's turning a 2-1 game into an 8-2 game. And that's what we've seen happen way too often. Eduardo Salazar comes in after Zach Brixey makes a mess of the inning. He gets 2 outs, and he's 1 strike away from getting out of the whole thing, and the game's tied 2-2. Now, he gives up the RBI single to Christian Moore. Okay, you're now trailing. But you get 1 more out, and this is still a close game, and your teammates have a chance. And what does he do? Instead, he gives up a 3-run homer to, Newman, Kevin Newman, 0 homers on the year, a 410 OPS, and he gives up a 3-run shot to that guy, the number 9 hitter, and now the game is out of control. That's the kind of stuff that we've seen happen way too often. Nobody's going to be perfect. You expect them to give up a run or two, especially guys who are not as qualified as some of the other high leverage relievers. But you got to keep the game within reach for your teammates. And instead, they made an absolute mess of that inning.
They totally did. And there have been so many innings this season in which the Nats bullpen has allowed, say, 4 or more runs, and we had another one of those innings in this game. So 4 Nats relievers for the game officially combined to allow 7 runs in 2 innings. Zach Brixey officially allowed 3 runs without recording it out. He would have ended up being a 6-run 7th for the Angels. Faced 3 batters, got no outs, gave up a leadoff homer by Mike Trout to left field that tied the game at 2, and then gave up a double and a single. Mark just talked about Eduardo Salazar. He officially allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. And it was so interesting with Salazar because he, in that Angels 6-run 7th, retired each of the first 2 batters he faced. And he did so each time with runners at the corners. So you did think that, okay, maybe this is going to be a night on which Salazar gets the job done. But he allows each of the next 4 batters he faces to reach base, including doing, as Mark just outlined, giving up a 2-run, 3-run homer by Kevin Newman to left field for a 6-2 Angels lead. Ryan Ludus, he officially tossed a third of a scoreless inning, but he and the Angels 6-run 7th issued a 2-out walk to each of the first 2 batters he faced, including a 2-out bases loaded 4-pitch walk of Taylor Ward for a 7-2 Angels lead. And then the cherry on top of the bullpen Sunday, Jackson Rutledge, bottom of the 8th, allowed a run on a 1-out solo homer by Gustavo Campero to right field for an 8-2 Angels lead. Here's what I'm wondering. The bullpen has been so bad. You had Zach Brixey coming into the game to face the Angels 3, 4, and 5 batters. There is an argument in that spot to deploy your ace reliever, who for the Nats would be Kyle Finnegan. Do you think that Davey Martinez was tempted to use Finnegan in that 7th inning, or do you think that is a no-go for Davey Martinez with how he uses his relievers?
I am glad you asked that question, Al, because I asked Davey Martinez a version of that question after the game. Look, Finnegan has barely pitched on this road trip. We've outlined why that has been the case and questioned whether there was some other way to get him in there. And so I said to him, listen, he's your best guy. He hasn't pitched a lot. Do you reach a point ever that you have to decide, I'm just going to use him in an unconventional situation? I didn't specify the 7th inning. I just kind of left it open like that. And he said that had they got through the 7th, he would have started the 8th and they would have tried to get 6 outs from him, or at least take him as far as you could go. They never got to that point. So he wasn't going to use him in the 7th. I guess the idea being, yes, those are their best hitters, but somebody else would have to close the game, and he wasn't comfortable with the options. But he was certainly prepared to use him more than he normally would, although it's still kind of last man standing in the bullpen. I like your thinking. I'm thinking the same thing myself. How many of the 30 major league managers out there would actually do that? I don't know if any would, or if it is, it's a very small number that would consider doing something like that. If it backfires, you're going to get all kinds of heat for it. But right now, given what they have, it does almost feel like, what do you have to lose in a situation like that? Go for broke, see how it works out. And if it doesn't work, I was thinking to myself, watching this game and the way this all played out, go back to when Dusty Baker was the manager of this team, and they're in the playoff series, and Danny Espinosa is just killing them offensively. And it's like game 2 of the series. And my old colleague, Bill Latz from MLB.com, in the pregame press conference with Dusty essentially asked him, why is Espinosa still in the lineup? Why haven't you replaced him in the lineup as much as he's struggled? And Dusty's answer, I swear to God, his answer was, Bill, who else I got? Dusty could get away with something like that. I imagine Davey Martinez is thinking the same thing when it comes to the bullpen in a game like this. Like, who else do I got? I can only use the guys that they've given me to work with. And when a couple of the few reliable guys are not available, you go with what you have. Yeah, you could have tried the closer in the 7th inning. That would have been way off the charts different. Maybe it would have worked, but you're asking him to do something that's highly unconventional. And it felt like in this case, I'm not saying Davey's been perfect in his bullpen management, but it felt like in this case, who else has he got? He's got nobody else. This is what he has to work with right now.
It is. And look, even if Finnegan gets the job done, you still have 2 other innings about which you must worry in this game. So at some point, you're going to have to deploy someone who you're not in love with. I just would say this, your bullpen is horrible. Okay. It's not just like the bullpen is kind of sort of bad. The bullpen is wretched. It's awful. So why not try some things that are unconventional? And, I'm almost reluctant to use that word unconventional. It's 2025. Like, we see all kinds of things when it comes to reliever usage, pitcher usage. It wouldn't be that outside of the box for Davey Martinez to take what is his best reliever and use him in a spot like that in the 7th inning. And we all get it. Finnegan is an imperfect pitcher, and it's not like he's had some lights out season. But if he's your best guy and your bullpen is this bad and you are down some key guys in Brad Lord and Jose A. Ferrer, why not use them in a spot like that in that 7th inning? Like you said, what do you have to lose? Your bullpen ERA is approaching 6. Like, really, what exactly do you have to lose at this point? You're having a really disappointing season. I think Davey Martinez has got to be much more open to when and how he uses Kyle Finnegan.
Life as a small business owner, everything is your problem, and there aren't enough hours in the day. That's where LinkedIn Jobs, and by proxy Nats Chat, are here to help. For those crucial hires that you absolutely can't whiff on, turn to LinkedIn Jobs. Simply post your job, and LinkedIn will take it from there, making sure it gets in front of the properly qualified candidates who are searching themselves. Find out why more than 2.5 million small business owners have turned to LinkedIn Jobs to grow their staff. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/natschat. That's linkedin.com/natschat to post your jobs for free. linkedin.com/natschat. Terms and conditions apply.
The 0-1. Lifted in the air on the right side. Should do it. Garcia drifting back onto the outfield grass. He puts it away, and Michael Soroka works a scoreless 6th inning. A hit and a double play. Nicely done. 6 strong innings tonight for the Nationals starting pitcher.
A shame of this game is that Michael Soroka again pitched well. And man, you look at this guy, he's doing so many good things. It's like, what does he have to do to come out of a game truly feeling good about the work that he did? Now, in this case, I think he should feel good about the work that he did. But of course, the Nats ended up losing the game. But Soroka in this 8-2 loss at the Angels late night on Saturday night, 1 run in 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. He gave up just 2 hits, each of which was a single. He issued a hit by pitch. He threw 86 pitches, 50 strikes versus 36 balls. Another efficient, impressive outing from Michael Soroka. He worked quickly. He generated strikeouts. He limited the free passes. I mean, you look at what Soroka did in this game. The run that he allowed came on a double play. And I felt like that in so many ways captured how effective he was in this game.
Yeah, he was fantastic, and building right off of what he did at Dodger Stadium on Sunday. I know that one didn't end well for him in the sixth inning. This time he did come back for the sixth inning and was very effective and got through it. This was an outstanding start for him, and I think deep down, as hard as it was for them to lose the game, he did feel personally probably as well as he has in quite a while, because he's now stacked together back-to-back good starts, facing some pretty good hitters. And in this case, got through that final inning, which we know has been such an issue for him. He came into this one with a 22.85 ERA in the sixth inning. It's like 3 point something in all the other innings prior to that. So you weren't going to pull him, certainly not with the state of the bullpen. You weren't going to pull him after 5, but he came back out, got through that one. And then, as we discussed what they could have done, could you send him back out for the 7th at 86 pitches? Sure, you can give that a try. He has not pitched in the 7th inning all year long. I think you're taking a pretty big gamble with that. And if it doesn't work, and again, you're asking him to face Trout to start off the inning. If it doesn't work, you're going to get a lot of second guessing about that one. So I can't fault Davey for not putting him back out in that spot. And, maybe deep down, you're just saying to yourself, we've got this guy in a good place right now. Let's keep him there. He's got to be happy. He got through the 6th. Whatever happens after this, it's not his fault. Let's try to keep him now in this good place that he's in.
So Michael Soroka now, 11 starts. The ERA is at 4.70. We've talked about this with Soroka. The ERA is high, but the peripherals are good, and they're now even better. His whip is at 1.03. His strikeouts per 9 innings at 9.71. I have tried to avoid this kind of talk with you, but I don't know that we could avoid it any longer. So MLB's 2025 trade deadline really is not that far away, July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. If I said to you, Michael Soroka right now, in terms of pending Nationals free agents, is the Nats' top trade chip, given those peripherals, given that oftentimes with starting pitchers, it doesn't have to be that you're having a great season. If you're in a good stretch, if you're pitching well, a team can get something for you. Soroka is the Nats' top trade chip right now in terms of pending free agents. Is that true or false?
I think it's probably true. It's hard to get quality starting pitching at an affordable price in the middle of the season. The price tag is usually very high. And so you've got someone who's making $9 million, pending free agent, probably not going to, if you're Mike Rizzo, you don't have to necessarily shoot the moon in trying to get a ton of big name prospects for him. You're going to ask for as much as you possibly can. I think the right team in the right situation, somebody that already has rotation depth and probably also has bullpen depth where you can say, this guy only has to go 5-6 innings tops. We can limit him to 80 pitches and then go to the bullpen. I think there are some smart teams out there that could look at that and say, yes, we could maximize what this guy could do for us. And then it's just a matter of what is Mike Rizzo asking for, and does he pull the trigger to make the move? There's also a discussion to be had, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but there's a valid argument to throw out there to say, if you're the Nationals, why don't you see if you can re-sign Michael Soroka now? Offer him a 2-year extension. Maybe what we've seen, the peripherals are so good, maybe that is going to lead to better bottom line results here. And for a guy who, as we know, was 0-10 for the worst team in history last year and managed to get a $9 million contract from the Nationals and a chance to start when other teams weren't going to do that, maybe he feels like this is his best opportunity to cash in right now and not wait to see how it goes the rest of the year. So I don't necessarily think that's where their mind is. We haven't seen them take that kind of proactive action in quite a while, but I think there's an interesting case to be made for that, as well as to consider what you might get for him in a trade.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about Mike Rizzo, the Nationals president of baseball operations and general manager, he did not have a good offseason this past offseason. He whiffed on not 1, not 2, but 3 notable free agent signings in terms of relief pitching. We have seen something like the Josh Bell signing not work out. I think Ahmed Rosario has been good, so you give Mike Rizzo credit for that. But, I think with Michael Soroka, more and more, this is looking like more of a hit than a miss. Now, he missed decent time due to injury. And, I know the ERA is at 4.70, so we're not going to go crazy over this. But it may just turn out that the Soroka signing ends up being a wise one. And statistically speaking, I am fascinated by this. The whip is approaching less than 1. The ERA is approaching 5. Think about that disparity. How often do you see something like that? 4.70 ERA, 1.03 whip. That is crazy when you think about the difference between the earned run average and the walks plus hits divided by innings pitched.
Yeah, you just don't see that happen. I don't know if I can think of anybody who falls into that kind of category. You'll sometimes see the opposite. The guy with a high whip who somehow manages to get out of a bunch of jams and keep the ERA low. But the opposite way, no, I don't remember very many doing that. And I think it's probably a product of the sixth inning struggles, the fact that he often will leave with guys on base and then a reliever comes in and gives up the inherited runs. That could be part of it as well. But if you told me coming into this that you're going to get a whip around 1.0 and more strikeouts and innings pitched from Michael Soroka, I would have said this guy must be having a fantastic season. What a great signing by the Nationals. And it may ultimately be a good signing by them, but it's hard to process what the results have been versus the way he's looked. Just, again, I keep saying, if you don't see any of his stats and you've just watched him pitch this year, you say to yourself, boy, he's been really good. I think that's absolutely true. And it's just often been one little thing that's cost him, and that leads to the ERA being what it is. But at least, in this one and more recently, we have seen better stuff from him. And it was nice to see him finish this one and not, leave on a sour note.
And right now, he pretty clearly is at second best starting pitcher. I mean, Mackenzie Gore's number one, but with the struggles of Jake Irvin, I think right now you feel second best about Michael Soroka. So the Nats offense in this 8-2 loss at the Angels late night on Saturday night, just 2 runs. The Nats did total 9 hits. They were a homer, a double, and 7 singles, but the Nats worked just 2 walks, went 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position. If you are a Nats fan of the 15-run outburst late night on Friday night, you probably weren't stunned that the offense returned back to earth with this performance late night on Saturday night. C.J. Abrams had the homer. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 1 for 5 with a solo homer, continuing his strong June. Abrams in a Nats 1-run fifth, a 2-out first pitch, opposite field solo homer to left center field to tie the game at 1. James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 2 for 4 with 2 singles. Josh Bell, I don't want to call this a resurgence, but he has been better lately. He is the Nats starting DH and number 5 batter, went 1 for 4 with a double. And how about Riley Adams, a second consecutive multi-hit game? He is the Nats starting catcher and number 8 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI single and another single. So there was some good stuff offensively in this game, but clearly 2 runs, not nearly enough, especially with what ended up happening with the bullpen.
As you're saying, I don't think anybody, if you've been paying attention, could be surprised that this was the result one night after the 15 runs. And it's not just because of the all or nothing nature of this lineup where you don't know what you're going to get on a given night, but consider the matchup. Jose Soriano is a better pitcher than Kyle Hendricks, and yet it's a better matchup for the Nationals. They hit the guys who throw hard, as we've seen. Soriano averages 97 miles an hour with his fastball. I'm not surprised the Nats hit him well. Kyle Hendricks, if you've watched the Nats over the years, you know enough to know how they do against Kyle Hendricks. Even though he's well past his prime, even though he's not really an effective big league pitcher anymore, anybody like that who throws less than 90 miles an hour, who throws sinkers and changeups and puts everything down and out of the zone and gets you to reach for them, we know how the Nats do against those guys. And so I was not shocked at all. The only surprising thing to me about it was they only hit into 2 ground ball outs against a guy who's looking for weak ground ball contact. They actually hit the ball in the air. There were some loud outs. David likes to say use the big part of the field. They hit a lot of balls to center field. Unfortunately, some of them were right at the center fielder, and they hit some pop-ups as well. It was good on C.J. Abrams to adjust his third time through and get a good pitch and drive it to left center field. But this is unfortunately the kind of offensive performance that we have seen way too often from this team, especially against soft throwers like Kyle Hendricks, who relies on movement and keeping the ball down in the zone. That just played right into his hands in this one against a Nats team that, as we know, does not fare well against those kind of pitchers.
And Hendricks is a soft thrower who is not having a good season, who has not been good in a couple of seasons, and who is an older pitcher. I mean, in theory, you tee off on a guy like that. You tattoo a guy like that. And it was the exact opposite in this game. It just is crazy the way it has gone with this team offensively this season. So the Nats still can win this series. We have Game 3 at the Angels on Sunday at 4:07. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. This will be the Nats' final game in this month of June that really has just gone so poorly. I mentioned the record earlier. 6-19 are the Nats in this month of June. I don't know that we'll ever see a month for the Nats worse than July 2021, but so much of that month had to do with things off the field as compared to things on the field. But just from an on-the-field standpoint, This has been, I think, the Nats' worst month since July 2021. It's hard to think of a worse month than that. It's been rough, man. Hopefully the Nats can end it with a win, but a lot of losing in this month. Things at times have gotten ugly in terms of, the discussion of where the Nats are at as a team, the futures of Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez. So even if the Nats win, it's been a rough last 30 days here for the Nats.
It is going to be one way or the other, whether they win or lose, one of the worst months in team history. And here are the facts to back it up. If they lose, they will be 6-20 for the month. That would be a .231 winning percentage. Only once in team history have they had a worse winning percentage over a full month. And you go all the way back to July of 2008, a 100-loss team that went 5-19, a .208 winning percentage that month. So if they lose, it's the second worst month in team history. Even if they win, it's 7-19, a .269 winning percentage would be the fifth worst month in team history, behind August of 21, July of 22. So even though the July of 21 was the nightmare one, they did go 8-18, which at the time was really bad because of what it led to, but they were actually worse in August of that year. But we are talking about, unquestionably, no matter what happens on Sunday, one of the worst months in Nationals history. And that's a remarkable thing to consider when you consider the fact that they had a winning record in May for only the second time during the rebuild. To go from 15-12 to now one of the worst months in team history, that is just almost hard to believe.
Yeah, and that's such a big part of this is that, what we were hoping for the Nats this season. 2008, the Nats are a really bad team. 2025, the hope is that the Nats are starting to become a good team, and to have the door slammed in your face with a month of June like this just is really rough. Now, again, July 2021, you had some whacked out stuff happening off the field, right? That's when Steven Strasburg underwent the TOS surgery. We had a Nationals game in that month paused due to gunfire outside of Nationals Park. So a lot of messed up stuff was going on in that month. We haven't had that kind of thing in this month of June, but it obviously has been a really bad month for the Nats. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the program. We'd love to have you on board. Contact Tim Shovers, the man who runs this podcast. Again, the email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on Priority Sports Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Now the pitch to the way, swung on, belted in the air to deep left by Abrams. Long run for Adele, warning track at the wall, and it is gone. Goodbye. Bang, zoom goes C.J. Abrams. His 12th home run of the season, his 28th run batted in,